So I call this meeting to order, September 17th, Self-Insurance Board, 10 a.m. If I could, Mary, would you like to do the invocation? You did such a nice job last night.
Dear Lord, I ask that you come together here with us and give us guidance in our meeting and our decision-making skills. I pray for those that have been here, or here tonight, or today, rather, and those that will be leaving today for this safe passage. And I ask that you give us the wisdom that we inquire for. In your Lord we pray.
Amen. So, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Recognition of the public. Don't see any. We now have before us the election of the chairman, and do I have a
I
nomination?
nominate Commissioner Boyd, if she can keep the meetings under an hour and a half, then that's my nomination.
Very good. Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll have election of vice chair. You can have a nomination or a volunteer.
I nominate Bob Brown to be chairman, co-chairman.
Well, I'll second that. Thanks for speaking up, Mary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Bob is our vice chair. Can we get approval of the minutes from July 23rd? Second?
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Report of the chairman. So, on the report of the chairman, we have a lot of items on our agenda today. I don't have anything additional to add to that. Under my report, though, I would like to add, because I didn't add it to the agenda and it was left off the agenda, the report from our consultants. So if we could just stick that under mine, if that's okay with everyone. So then I'm just going to ask them to report under mine.
Okay.
Do you want to add 1 to 1 also? Or they
Yes,
gotta
1 to
report?
1 also.
Do you want me to go now?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
fantastic. All right, so let's see. There you go. Here's our monthly report. Hopefully you are receiving it also electronically each month. Did I just give one of you that has a number written on it, like a $33 amount? I may have. No, maybe not. I don't know what I did. Okay, it's fine. So
Here's
we are-
$33.98.
oh, there we go. Perfect. I just
I
wanted
didn't
to
know where
address
you-
that
I
number.
was looking all over.
There you go. Thank you. I just wrote it down because I could never, I won't remember that off the top of my head. Yes, there you go. And then 1, 2, and 3 perfect amounts. So 1, 2, and then you want to give him the other one just on his side. So everything is running still in the black. We are only 2 months into this plan year. So in July, I always start us back at 0 because we go like a plan year because the county is paying themselves a stop loss fund. So that number that I had written down is $33.98 per employee per month is what is being set aside. I get Blue Cross to run us a stop loss quote. And so it was a bit of an increase, which I expected because you did have some large claimants last year. This year we have started off with one that has kind of, it seems kind of intense. It's an ongoing, this is new from last year, diagnosis that will cost some money. We may end up having to dip into stop loss. This is not though like a NICU baby where immediately it's $1 million. This is going to be just ongoing treatments, possibly surgeries. And that actually, I don't have the details on it, but that might have been what peaked it this past month for that person. So we have one person on the report. And our PEPM, we're still, we're definitely below your high year from 21, 22. But again, 2 months in is not a great average when you're looking at an entire year. So I don't know, and I did move over also since I haven't seen you all since the July report started. We move over those, the stop loss funds we're adding to. So 1079 was what you had at the end of last year, and then we've added, so now we're at 1.1 in that stop loss fund, using that new figure as of July 1. Any questions on this piece?
Just one
Sure.
quick clarification. So we dip into the stop loss when it goes over 500,000 per
Correct.
patient?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
This employee female, what is going on? Is that-
It's an oncology
It's
situation.
oncology, okay.
Any other questions about the monthly report? No?
Thank you.
Okay, and so I will talk about one other thing really quickly that will actually lead into one-to-one. So we had some questions about mental health coverage for the plan and what's covered. So on your plans, whether you're option 1 or 2, you have behavioral health coverage. It is covered the same as if you have strep throat. All right, so I pulled out from your plan covered services. That includes inpatient services, outpatient. It includes practitioner visits, going to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. It's all the same. Legally, it has to be covered that way now. That's why we did the NQTL analysis quite a while ago now. Those things have to be in check. Things you don't cover are marriage and family counseling if there's no diagnosis involved. That is typical of a plan. You don't have to cover it. That's typical. Same as like sleep disorders, pain management, things like that. It might fall under some other coverage, but that's not considered a behavioral health coverage. So that is there. It pays into the deductible and out of pocket depending on which option of the plan you're on, but there is coverage, there's access. Also, Blue Cross has some great flyers that they sent me. I have 2 copies of them just because I forgot I had made copies. But they have things that you all can send out to employees if you would like. They're really nice flyers that talk about, if you need mental health support, here's a number to call. They'll help you find a practitioner. They will help try to get you in. And then also we have behavioral health coverage through one-to-one, which they can talk about that much more expertly. Do you have any questions about the medical health coverage of mental health?
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Oh, yes, you did, yes.
Just remind you that we didn't approve the minutes of the meeting.
We did.
Yeah, I didn't hear.
You didn't vote, but.
I didn't hear it.
Where was
Yeah, I
I?
know. Well,
Where is it?
we said it, you didn't object.
1-to-1?
She wants you to pass it.
Oh. Mr. Chairman, I think part of the question was about one-to-one coverage.
Yes.
That's their
That-
biggest question.
That's where it's coming. They're gonna address what they would,
You know what, I don't think it was to play as much to Blue Cross as another one.
we just wanted to get it all. Thank you.
All right, so I'll speak to our behavioral health program really quick, just to tie into what Brittany was talking about. So, and we have sent flyers in the past, but we're happy to resend new flyers or updated ones. But essentially, your employees can call or text our clinic phone number to receive behavioral health care. And so, a new behavioral health patient coming into the program, the wait is about 4 weeks. For evening and after hours appointments, it's about 6 weeks to get into the program. We are actively hiring a new therapist. That's just for therapy. If you need to meet with a behavioral health nurse practitioner, that waits a week or 2 at the most. So we do 2 things. We do medication management, and then we also do therapy and counseling. But like I said, we're onboarding a new behavioral health therapist soon, so that wait should go down to about 3 or 4 weeks, regardless of the time that you choose for therapy. Questions about that?
What is the name of the company?
One-to-one health?
This is it right here?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
And where are you out of?
Well, we're here. We have 5 clinics here in the county that your employees are able to use.
Okay, so it's through the county clinics?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not being demonstrative, I'm
No.
just trying to ask.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think she's being more
Good
geared
question.
towards the behavioral health stuff.
Yeah.
That's
We're
not
here, love.
contracted out?
No, it's our employees.
Okay.
Yes.
Does this go down the
Good
road of
question.
what we, Madam Chairman?
Is this going down the road we were talking about earlier, about mental health and,
We're just having an overall review of what the clinics
will this
offer.
fall in that category though, of what you were,
I can't remember, I'm sorry.
there
Our
was like
conversation.
Craddock and,
Yeah, we'll see.
okay.
I think the questions are the clinics and.
Yeah, what, the question is what the clinics offer at this.
Yeah, they're in the amount of wait time, I think is part of it.
Can you give us an idea, with the wait time, how many behavioral cases go through the clinics?
Yes, so if you look at the other sheet, that's kind of our stats report. So this year, we've had 285 behavioral health visits just for your employees.
Okay, I'm looking.
That top little section where it says clinic site usage, if you look, it's the third line down, it says Sumner Behavioral Health.
Okay,
You'll see 285 visits, and it's kind of broken out by month, the number of visits.
and, is that, just the general county, or does that include the schools?
No, that's only your numbers.
Only our numbers. And to get an idea, because we had spoken in the past about this is a partnership, and we really are the same entity. So I just want to know, I want an idea of how much the school is using it. I mean, do they have, it's different if they had 5 people or if they have 500 people. I mean, how much?
So we
Are
can
we-
report total numbers, but we did that years ago and we're asked to only report your numbers.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to go back and kind of report
Just-
both if you want to see
If you
that.
could just give me an idea, like how many people are waiting 4 to 6 weeks? I mean, if you see 285 and they all have to wait 4 to 6 weeks, that's one thing. But if the school brings in another 500 and there's, 800 or 900 people out there waiting 4 to 6 weeks, that's a difference. So that's why I'm just wondering, because it is a partner.
Sure, I can get those numbers for you. I don't have them
Yeah, that's
memorized,
okay.
unfortunately,
Just
but
send-
I'll,
Yeah,
I'll
that'd be
send them
fine.
your
That's
way.
all I was just wondering, how
Sure.
many people.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And to clarify, reporting moving forward, do you want to see both sets of numbers or just your numbers?
I think just my numbers for right now, but in this behavioral health, since we're discussing this wait time and stuff, I'm just wondering
Sure.
what the volume is.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, perfect. All right, so then moving on down this sheet. So you've had 1,649 total visits. And this is just, I should say, this is just through June. So this is through second quarter. And then virtual care, so text care, that is reported kind of separately down there at the bottom. You'll see the virtual care section. So these are the people who have opted in, visits who have opted into receiving care through text. And so we do have very good utilization of that platform as well. And again, all of that is done in-house through our providers. We don't contract out anything. And then patient, oh, I'm sorry,
Is that just for sickness?
text care? No, anything really. So like lots of people who are on chronic medications will text in about their refills. Pretty much anything that we can see via text, we will. If we're texting with somebody and we need to see them in the clinic, of course, we'll refer them to come into the clinic. Okay. Did you have a question?
Yeah, this top chart right here is each one of the entities, but then you roll up everything in the bottom here.
The bottom kind of breaks out by the visit, so
Okay.
that kind of lets
Well,
you
that's
see
what
what we're seeing in the clinics.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we send out patient satisfaction surveys, so we send those out monthly. If someone's had at least one visit a month or more, they would get a patient satisfaction survey. It asks 10 questions, and then there's a comment section at the end. And so our current satisfaction survey results are 97%. Overall satisfied with the services from One-to-One Health. And on the back, it just kind of outlines the wellness program and the wellness information. So we just finished the physical deadline of September 30th, where you could have either had a physical or a biometric screening. You guys had 270 folks participate in the different biometric screening events that we had in August. And so a total of 523 people who've completed a biometric screening or a physical. And then their next deadline will be to complete health coaching if it's required by March 28th of 2025.
This is just for 2 months. I'm sorry, these numbers, are they, I'm not,
These numbers on the front are January through
no,
June.
through June, okay.
Just the first and second quarter. And then the numbers, the wellness program is different. It runs in, like in a year cycle. Well, yeah, so it started July 1st. Yeah.
So what's the in the non-compliant, so when you have 186 people, which is about half the people are non-compliant,
That was for last year's program, and so those are people who maybe completed their physical or biometric screening, but they did not complete the necessary health coaching to be able to be compliant for their wellness
Not
program.
that they didn't do it.
So they pay more.
What is the reward or for the employees that do get the bio screening and stuff?
So
Or is there a difference in premium?
Yes.
No.
So-
Not
No,
very
yeah.
much.
Difference in
Just
coverage.
deduction.
Difference in coverage. So they're gonna pay the same and get less coverage, or? they're
They
gonna
pay the same and get less coverage. They have a higher deductible, higher co-pays, and then if
Okay.
you're a smoker, you also pay a nicotine surcharge.
Um,
And you're also considered on, because there's a much higher cost for smokers on average.
And ACA allows up to 50% penalty for folks on nicotine, whereas regular, well, other things is 30.
We also have a payment if your spouse offers health insurance and they take this, we also charge a penalty on that one too.
Is
So-
that all forms of tobacco?
It's supposed to be all forms, vaping, dipping, smoking.
It's nicotine essentially, so yeah, we test.
I
for
said
nicotine.
smoking, but maybe
Cannabis.
Yeah, they only check for tobacco, so yes,
Yeah.
that's,
And so, I was looking for, I got a number earlier. So the number that I got was 689 active people on our benefits. And then the biometrics, we got 523.
And that's employees and spouses. So
Oh,
the
employees
spouse is
and
required to
spouses.
participate also.
And so employees and spouses, we had,
523.
Well, that's.
we had, just so y'all know the
Right.
numbers I got, for employees and spouses on our benefits, and Amy could tell you this better, I just got the paper.
That's just the ones that complete it, some don't do it.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, yeah, it's quite a few. We have 1,685 active users of our benefit package. And she's saying that we got 523 that went through and did their biometrics.
But don't count the dependents, because dependents 18 and below, they are not
Not in
part
it.
of the HR.
That's
Yeah,
a big
we-
piece.
And you don't want to do
Thank
that
you.
on the
Yeah, I
children,
see it,
yes.
so that's
Yeah.
500 of them. So that makes it a lot closer.
But you gotta think if somebody's gonna check positive for nicotine, they're more than likely not gonna do anything else because they're already gonna be non-compliant.
So they just don't.
Well, they just don't do it.
That is typically the highest hit, right, nicotine? That's
Yeah.
usually the.
That makes
non-compliance
sense.
reason.
So if
We still have a
they're
bunch
positive,
scheduled
show
because they
up.
have till the end of the month.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to look at the number. Back to the wait time. Has the wait time always been 4 to 6 weeks?
It's always been 3 to 4 weeks for therapy.
3 to 4? Uh-huh.
Yes, which is half of what you'll find in the marketplace.
I see. So if they call, they get on a wait list.
That's right, and then as we have cancellations, which we do from time to time, we start that wait list and call to try to get people into those cancellations.
Do they, is this an in-person, or what would
It
it
can be
look like?
both, so it's whatever the patient prefers. So we
Okay.
have a dedicated space for in-person visits at Ellis or virtual. Most often people prefer virtual, but we do have the ability to see in person.
Excellent. And then you're looking to hire an additional one, so.
A pertinent piece of information for the whole discussion may be in the past, things covered in the clinic has only been for the wellness or
Yeah.
things that are cheaper to go through the clinic versus Blue Cross Blue Shield. Because one time, the county and the schools had a pharmacy, but they were losing money, several $100,000 a year. So the pharmacy was shut down. It was a convenience to employees, but it was cheaper to go through Blue Cross. So the push, since I've been here and probably before, is only to run things through the clinic if it's cheaper going through the clinic or helps with our wellness to decrease long-term large claims.
At what point in the past have you looked at the actual cost at the clinic? I mean,
It's been a
to
couple years
this,
back.
huh?
It's been a couple of years since we went through it deeply, but,
I will tell you, the Board of Education has a third-party vendor that does that for them. It's called Vital Insights, and so they constantly compare the cost of the community and then the cost of our services inclusive of all of our fees to make sure that we're the lowest cost option.
so that'd be something we probably want
I'm sure
to
they
hire
can share
somebody
that
to do.
with you, yeah.
Or we'd want to retain them to do it for us either.
And we can certainly do that if you would like us to get a quote from Vital Insights.
And we do have an actuarial every year just to determine what the cost per employee is, but.
Well, I don't really see the need to act like we're completely separate units. We're all the same. We can talk to them. And see what we can do.
And I do want to add, in the marketplace, you do have coverage through Blue Cross, but there are also a number of therapists who will not take insurance. And so you have opened up access to your employees, which I know is an issue for certain groups that need more access. Being able to go to the on-site clinic, that's huge, because it is a wait to get to someone in the marketplace. And then you also have to make sure they even take insurance, because a lot of therapists won't deal with it. So this opens up that access too, which is as essential.
The network payments aren't good enough, so they won't take it. That's what your network for your mental health is nowhere near as large as it's not, if you start looking through the network.
So if I went out in the open market and I didn't know that you were offering this, and I called up a provider, or 5 or 6, what am I gonna find is the average wait time?
I would say between 8 and 12 weeks is probably gonna be your average wait time.
It's that evaluation appointment is always very long, because they have to talk to you much longer. And then after that, you usually fall on a schedule.
I can answer that because I deal in this. They're right. People that are trying to get therapy services, you know, first of all, it's insurance covers. A lot of people don't want to take it. It's cash only. And also the wait times. I'm seeing patients having to wait 6 months for a therapist. So in the private market. So it's a huge deal. And I mean, if you're able to get in 4 to 6 weeks, that's fabulous. But you're right, the evaluations usually take, for a psychotherapist, usually is about 2 hours, 2.5 hours if that's done appropriately. And then the other side of it, the medication management, your first visit is usually about an hour and a half. So this is better than the private market, I can tell you that for sure. That's what I see.
That's great. That answers my questions.
Sorry?
That answers my questions. Does anyone else have any questions for one-to-one? I'll turn it over to the report of the finance director.
Just a report, as you can see Brittany's numbers this year, we are running in the positive. Just to give you a really short summary, and there's nothing to even hand out because it's going to be very short and brief. Looking at your last fiscal year, you picked up a little over $2 million in your health, so it was a very good year. A little over I think about $70,000 in your dental, and about $800,000 in your OJI. So all your funds last year did have a positive growth based on the actuarials, and looks like things are going in the right direction. And then this year looks pretty close to mirroring at this point, other than the one large claim.
Thank you. So next on the agenda is the old business. Property claim deductible. I believe we have several items on old business, and it's been numerous weeks. So bear with me if I get the items not completely there. The first item A, property claim deductible. That one was the one where we just said that we were going to inform budget of this change, and we have informed them. So we'll take that off of old business, no action needed. The next item is B, questions answered by the broker for the consultants. There were several items addressed in this email, and I'd like to suspend the
So moved.
rules to allow ESP to say anything they'd like to, if you'd like to address any of those.
Sure. On
We
the
need to vote.
Yeah.
I'll vote on the-
I gave you motion.
Yes,
Mary seconded.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I just want to say, I can't hear you all. I know I'm old,
I'm
but I
sorry.
can't hear you all.
Can we
Down
scoot
here.
up?
Do you want to switch places with me, or?
Yeah,
I really have a great deal of difficulty hearing what you're saying.
I'm sorry.
Let me switch places.
Yeah, I think it'd be better, because I can't hear.
You're being mean to me anyway.
I can hear really well.
Yeah, you should have been here sooner.
Thank you for doing
That's how
that.
you do
Sorry,
me, Derek.
Commissioner Jerome.
Sometimes.
I was just talking down.
I can't hear you.
I'll use
So,
my speaking voice.
back to old business, item B, questions answered by the broker consultant. We have in the packet, there's an email with black and red. And what we have is, in the black, you have ESP, and in the red, you have, would I say CIA? Is that who we would say, or would we say Salvin? Which
CIA.
CIA.
He's the representative.
He's the
from
rep, okay.
CIA.
So the way this email is, when you see it in your packet, the black text here is ESP, and the red text is CIA. And I'm only asking ESP right now if they'd like to give us any additional information or speak to any, not all the items, if there was anything you wanted to say.
The only thing I wanted to say, some of these questions I think could have just been addressed when we got the policies, because with this came all the policies. So I think that actually answered a lot of the questions. He didn't even have to address them. I think that clears things up when you actually get to look at a policy. So, I don't think we had any follow-up because we went over it internally, and I don't think we had any other follow-up. That was just the only statement I wanted to make.
Okay.
Those questions we were told to watch
You
the meeting, and you can't hear that very well, so the whole meeting, we didn't have the policy, so the whole meeting was like, what is that? Where does that come? Where does that in the policy? We don't have the policy, so we're just asking questions, and we honestly didn't know it was gonna get sent to the broker. It was just having a discussion, but whatever, it's fine.
Okay.
We just, that's what we do, is ask questions.
And I understood, I just wanted y'all to understand how the email was.
Yeah. One question I've got here. It says up here in the questions, this brings about another question as to how name storms are covered in many policies. Now, I know with my house policy, they've got me, I used to have $500 deductible until I had all, tornado, a lot of microbursts, so they went up on me on the wind damage to 1% of my house. Is that what is going here, is they have picked out one particular type of weather?
Well, that was my question about the name storms, because we didn't know. I didn't have a policy to know if that was gonna be an issue, because it is an issue with the broader market. So that's why I was like, well, is this a problem we need to ask about? So that's what that was, and it turns out from his answer, it's not something you have to worry about.
Okay, so, no action needed, we'll move on. If there's no questions on item B. Item C, volunteer fire department. That item in our discussion was, because we own various things.
I don't think so. You need to come back into session.
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll come back in, into session, into order. Under old business, item C is volunteer fire department. So in a prior meeting, we discussed that the fire department, we own some of the pieces of the fire department, buildings and such. And so the question for risk was, the parts that we own, are we insured? And which parts are they?
We have, any building that we own is on our schedule. Did you need to know the individual ones that we have? 'Cause
Yeah,
I provided the list, that y'all wanted a list of the volunteer fire departments, and that's in the packet.
Okay.
It's page 33. And that's all of the volunteer fire departments.
So it's all good.
No, these are all the volunteer fire departments. Out of these, we own Oak Grove, Shackle Island, the one on Hilton Lane, in Castellian Springs.
Which number is that?
That is number 12. And I think that's the only ones that we actually own.
Number 2 Gallatin. So it says county highway and some.
Oh, yes, sorry about that. Number 2 and number 3. The rest of them are city-owned buildings.
It says outside of the,
So with the property schedule, if we were to look, all 5 of these are over here on our property. Do we also, and without me, I don't want to reconcile the list right now. Do we have contents to these? Do we
No.
ensure the contents?
Not
Or
for
are
the-
there any contents?
Not for the fire department, we don't. Any city property that, or county property that would be in there would be insured by us. Or the buildings are insured by us, but the volunteer fire department equipment, they insure that themselves.
So I'm thinking like at Oak Grove, and I don't know who owns the stuff in there. At Oak Grove, we have our EMS in there. We have beds and couches and
If
stuff.
If EMS is in there, we have contents in that.
So we would put the contents on the
Yes.
schedule under, like, we would group it under airport EMS then?
EMS, all of their stations are listed on there individually, and in those stations where city owns the building, we only have listed content values on the property schedule.
I understand. So then at Oak Grove, if I look it up, it would only have contents for those.
Yes, because the city owns that building.
Did you say that number 12 is, did you say that was our building?
We have I think that's an EMS station, and I think we only have contents, I'm sorry, we only have contents in there.
But,
I think the
are we
EMS
relatively sure that that is not our county building?
Let's see.
Cascade Springs?
Let's see if I can find the EMS stations.
And the reason I'm saying it may not be, but you remember when the
Yes.
tractor trailer went off the highway and ran into that building, I
That
think
is
we
our
had
building.
liability.
That is our building. 1101 Hilton Lane is our building. And we do insure it.
Okay, so it is a Sumner County.
Yes.
Here it says.
Sorry.
The community center owns it. It says on here the community center owns it.
Mhm.
Well, we have it on our list, and it is insured, the building,
It is insured by.
That needs to be changed.
by us. We'll have to check on that one.
So if we could, just leave this on old business and give us all the time to reconcile. I think everybody wants to look between the 2 lists on the actual fire departments and back to the insurance list. So if we could have like we can discuss it last time, we can each reconcile it ourselves, or Kim, if you could reconcile and assure us, that would be good, instead of spending time going back and forth, if that's okay.
So, just another question. I mean, we see a variety of owners here. Board of Education, I guess that was a former school building or something like that. And then there's another one where the Resource Authority owns another building, Oak Grove. And then the Westmoreland Civil Defense Trustees. And then it looks like a private individual owns one. The last one, White House number 2.
Yeah, and Marty Bowers is no longer the chief of New Shackle Island.
So if we could all have updates to our volunteer fire department schedule and our reconciliation, we'll go over it next time.
Okay.
Can I get a motion to move on and leave this to old business?
Make a motion to move on.
Second?
If I could
Yes, sir.
point out that I think part of this packet is also EMA and continuing workers' comp on
Yes.
them as a separate policy versus bringing that into the county. So it may have been meant to be part of F, I'm not sure, but that was an issue that you all wanted to discuss in the past.
Because they were using volunteers, right?
Yes.
That's why it was brought up.
And they had a separate policy that EMA was purchasing that we were unaware of at the time.
Did they ever give you a list of the people that were on the volunteer list They never supplied you with that?
I've been supplied with a couple of lists from different volunteer fire departments, but not EMA. But that was a separate request I made outside of this.
I know that we had requested that and they didn't share it with you, right?
What the insurance, EMA's insurance broker told me is they just turn in a number to him, a number of volunteers,
Okay.
and they don't list specific individuals. So they base their policy premium on a number of.
On a number, not a name. Okay.
And he has a I think Ken has a list of people he calls on, but Mr. Wagner, sorry, has a list of people he calls on to volunteer. I just don't know who they are.
Sure.
Is that something that we should know? I guess my question to you is, how many claims do you see from volunteers?
I have never seen any.
Oh, because you don't have the
Because
history.
I don't handle volunteers under the occupational compensation plan.
Does the EMA director do that?
Yes, he has in the past.
I thought that we directed that to move to going through your office.
You did,
Or-
but since.
but we
it's-
haven't had
it's not-
anything.
We've not
Okay.
had any since it's been moved over. So I guess that was July 1, when he moved over.
So
Well, and
we
the
just-
issue we run into here is, are the volunteers also part of other fire departments? Are they is there a potential drawing workers' comp from other locations, insurance benefits? And there's several different factors involved in here in the coverage and what we need to provide, if anything. So I just don't want this topic to go away.
I make a motion that we add to our next agenda, to ask the law director to potentially line out these issues that he has, gone over with us. And we have set aside some time to discuss the ins and outs of the volunteer coverage. If I could get a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Now, we talking about volunteer fire department or volunteers for the EMA?
EMA.
EMA, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
So that item will move to next agenda.
Okay.
And it's a little bit confusing because we started this with volunteer fire department, so the heading will change to volunteer insurance.
I'll just create a new business
You'll
next
create new
time.
business, thank you.
But I do need to know, the volunteer fire department is gonna be old business as well, right? Because you still
Yes.
have
Yeah,
some
we still have
questions
Yes.
on
we
that.
still have a
Okay.
grid to
That's true.
update.
Gotcha.
We're ready to move to item D.
Yep.
It's the insurance premium spreadsheet. And when I was going back and looking, it was presented to us in June, and I'm not quite sure why we carried it over. I think it's just informational, so we'll continue to see where our policies are at.
Yeah, you just wanted to see the spreadsheet, so I
So you brought,
put it in the packet.
That's what I was asking there, automobile liability, how would it get to $1 million occurrence with a $350,000 tort limit per occurrence? How do we ever reach the deductible says 1 million plus 10% of claims? So we're buying something that we potentially are never gonna use? Or could, that's what I'm asking on that, I'm just asking a question of statistics. There's a Tennessee tort limit of 350 per occurrence.
yes.
This thing has a deductible of $1 million plus 10%. So my question is, how many cases could possibly get to federal for vehicle accidents?
I understand what you're saying. So,
It would break, be outside of court.
what you talking about?
Just
The court
a
limit.
question.
Can I, isn't it $750 if it's more than one person? Like for the whole event? I thought it was $350 for a person, but if like a whole family or a whole group of people is affected, isn't it higher than $350? $750.
Still
Yeah.
drops below the million.
Yeah,
But
it
it's
is,
still
but I
below
just,
the million, yeah.
I
Million
just wanna make sure we're
plus
doing the
10%.
math.
But you list on 350,
Right.
you know, gonna be
it's gonna fall on 350 most of the time.
Right, yeah, yeah.
It's 750 definitely, and then if you got 1 million plus 10's over, so unless it's brought into federal or some way breaks the tort, goes outside that tort law, then how's it picking up anything for us is my question. Are we
So-
buying basically a worthless coverage
I see what you're saying.
for a large amount of money, because it's a pretty good amount of
I mean,
policy.
NES had to ask to give that family more money when their transformer exploded on the sidewalk. They had to, like, ask the state legislature to allow them to give that family more money.
Does everybody understand the topic? That we're insuring over
The tort limit.
the tort
But
limit?
the tort limit, if it goes into federal, doesn't stand, but the question is how many vehicles and accidents and how does it get over into federal? And if it is it an unallowed coverage? We even looked at that, because a lot of times things like liability doesn't cover for things like harassment and certain things that that would break the limit anyway, so even under our general liability, several of those things are probably carved out that would go into federal. I would dare say, without looking at it closely, that's generally the case. Just a thought.
When we said that we were going to look at our policies this year, way before they were due. So we can put that down as an item to review when we go into discussing what we want to see in our next policies. Does that sound appropriate?
So you're saying, I hear you saying that we're going to revisit this in respect to what we're paying and what we need in our next review, which is when?
In March,
March, okay.
we went with your motion that, no, I'm sorry, in June, when the policies were due in July and we only had like a 2-week turnaround, and you made the motion and we all agreed to move it back 3 months, and that was March.
Right.
I think it would be prudent to do it more like in 6 months before their policies end.
Give you more time.
Give us more time.
I understand.
Mr. Long?
I start working on insurance things in January.
Yeah.
So if we wanna if y'all wanna consider changes, it would probably be beneficial to start probably December. To say, to tell the broker or whomever to get us quotes or to start looking for what options we have.
We bid or quote? Is this a bid or quote here? How do we do it?
Well, we haven't, since we weren't broker services, we don't do bid or haven't done. We can go back to that if that's what everybody wants, but.
So, and I think this is jumping down to the item at the bottom of our agenda, and we could cover that all right now while we're in it. A little bit of that. So CIA is brokering our policy, and we have not been bidding out for how long, Mr. Long?
I know it's been a couple of years at least.
So for a couple of years, we haven't been bidding out our insurance policies.
4.
Or, so that is an item that we can discuss right now, if you'd like, but that was lower in the agenda, but it's kind of run together. How does the committee feel? Would you like to take on that item now and cover it?
Well, it would make more sense.
It would.
He is. Let me clarify something, because that was my understanding. Brokerage itself is not biddable, but the insurance policies are, so he's bidding them correctly. He didn't send us copies of the bids.
Yes, he sends us copies of the
He's the
different
bidder.
options when we get it back.
We probably need to look how he's bidding those.
So they do the bid opening
Yeah, we
and
probably,
then present us with the options.
yeah, we probably need to look at that. 'Cause it probably
So-
went through us.
I did an analysis of our cost of consultants over the last 8-9 years. So here's a analysis of past.
So they are being bid. Thank you. See you about that.
So when, and I took out most of the small ones, there's just one small person, and I just left them in because they were 13,000. I only looked at cost over 5,000, because there were a lot of littler, smaller things in there. So basically, we are paying consultants. CIA is who went out and, our broker that bid out these contracts, these insurance policies for us. We picked them up in 2021. You'll see down here, 2021, CIA, since 2021 for those years, we're paying $50,000 a year for those brokerage consultants. Carvel is a consulting firm, and Kim has explained that to us, but if you could just briefly tell us again what Carvel does for us, so they just know why they're on this sheet.
That's who processes our workers' comp payments.
Payments.
Our bills, workers'
Yes.
comp bills.
So,
Yeah.
so that's why that they're on here. They're not a consultant. They are paid in our consultant line item on the financials.
They try to reduce the cost by negotiating down the cost.
Actually, what's probably showing up in this consultant line is, if you did the consultant line specifically, because they come up in the workers' comp line, what's showing up in the consultant line is I have a Medicare report that I have to file, and they do that.
Yeah, Carvel.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm
So
fine.
that's why it's showing up in the consultant line. because
Yeah.
I use them in two different ways.
Yes, and I'm good with
Yeah.
Uh,
They process their claims.
And then
Yeah, but that comes through
the
workers'
other
comp.
piece we have is ESP, and that's the piece that Jeremy helps us with, your piece of the business. And we've been using them from back in 2016. And you can see, in this line item, they're about $7,200 a year. So these are just the numbers over the last 6 to 8 years of what we've been doing for. And I don't know why we started using the outside broker, and I don't know how much money that it was because am I right, we were told, I was told that it was to save on the fees? You don't know? Mr. Long?
I wasn't involved in that part at the time.
What do the minutes say?
That was.
I have not made it to those
legal at
minutes.
the time was good.
That'd be interesting.
So what our committee has before us is looking at how we want to proceed with reviewing these insurance policies. We want to, if we want to send them out to this brokerage to bid them out for us, or
I think
if we'd like to, I'm sorry?
I think if they're bidding on the broker, they still need to send us the specs, and we need to bid them to keep custody. That's what I'm asking. Kim gets copies, but we're not really involved in the bidding. I mean, we need somebody to write the specs on the plans and the committee to approve them, but really for a control issue, it probably needs to be ran through finance like any other bid.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying is I'm bidding, but I'm not.
If she's getting
Exactly.
copies and we got copies, but we're not actually getting custody of them for a third party. That's what I'm saying, I think that somebody needs to write the specs that's professional to write the specs for them, if it's them, this one, or whoever, but I think we need to bid it.
So what was the procedure before 2021?
I think we bid it every 3.
On the fourth year, we
Fourth
would
year.
conduct a bid.
We did it.
Yeah.
Right. And that was before we centralized, and I think the last time we did it, they did it through our office, provided the specs.
The last time I remember conducting a bid for you guys, Leah was still the director.
I think at one point, and I think.
And that was when you went with Assured Partners, I think, and then y'all left Assured Partners, and we didn't know you had left them.
Let me tell you how life goes. Brittany works with us on the specs, we write the specs, we run it through finance, they receive it back, we keep custody, they summarize it, we review it with them, so it has a good set of controls. That's the way we do it right now, it's part of their service, and we work with them on the life, the committee approves any changes, if it's gonna change on the life, because the last approval on the change of life was to add in the, what's it called, employee?
The EAP.
EAP
The
was
EAP
added
program,
in.
yeah. We can also do, Mike, so we have 2 separate contracts, just so everyone's very aware, because we are transparent, it's important to us. So I do the medical benefits, so that would be life. If you ever wanted to bid Blue Cross, I can help you write those specs, do the exact same thing we do with life, but do it for that, okay? So PBM, like medication, all the medical health coverage, that stuff. That's a separate fee. So what we're talking about is the property and casualty side, which, yes, we can also do bids. That is, we do that regularly for other entities. That's
Now-
part of what we do. And the property, the initial evaluations of properties.
Montgomery County, I mean, we've
done
been
it
doing this
multiple
for 40 years.
Now, if we bid health, I would recommend we do like we did in the past, where we actually hire a firm, where we actually hire a firm that
Bid health?
actually, if you ever bid the health again, we need to hire a firm where they actually run the claims through the city.
Yeah, that's a
Because of the-
special part of the medical health, the medical, yeah, we've used an actual actuary who looks at claims. I handle still though, all the if you get a response from Cigna or Blue Cross or whoever, I deal with that stuff, but the actuary would run those claims
Those contract
privately.
discounts are paramount, so for instance,
Yeah.
if somebody bid $50,000 to $100,000 less cost to process the claims, but it cost us $3 million because their contracts aren't as good, we would lose a lot of money. That's why if we do health, we need to actually run it through an actuary and have them rerun claims on the
Yeah.
contracts to see what we
It would
really
be
end up
additional,
with.
yes.
It's a little more in depth.
Yeah,
Why are there 4 different firms?
So,
Corvell processes, as she's saying, the Medicare is to do her report, but Corvell processes are OJI because they actually try to get discounted
It's a
amounts.
PPO network.
Right, they got a
Yeah.
network for discounted amounts.
Mr. Duvall on here, he just had an outlier in 2017.
Yeah, I know.
So don't-
I saw.
There are some other.
I got him right there. I just.
There
But
were
who-
several.
What about the other 2? They're
So,
constant.
yeah, so these are ESP, employees.
We're employee security planning.
Okay.
That was just the.
And then the first one, Commercial Insurance Associate, that is the firm that bid these out for us.
I mean, Kim said Mr. Duval was the one that evaluated all of our historical properties at one time.
Oh,
he's a
nice.
historical guy, okay.
Since you said historical, that was
Is that the
in-
guy I brought down to do that survey that year? His name's Duval?
I think so. That's about when it was done, 17.
I maybe remember the first name, it's a little.
I don't remember that. It's been a long time.
Maybe it was a different name, different company.
I remember that day.
Y'all pretty tight?
Maybe remember his name.
Huh?
Y'all pretty tight?
We were until I brought him into another county government to do a job and they like abandoned the project halfway through, so he doesn't really like me anymore. I think he's retired now. He was close to
So
retiring
Mr.
anyway.
Duvall would have, did Mr. Duvall evaluate our brown house?
What he did was if you want, like Lee Beeman built this huge historical thing out in the middle of a lake, he built it for him. Like
In the lake?
Yeah, you go on his website and you see, it's like just this
Yeah.
big pavilion that pops up out of the lake with
So-
all this old historic type of construction. He's a historical construction contractor. And that's what you have to do
Yeah.
to get a historical
So with this date of
valuation.
2017, I'm just wondering if he evaluated all of our historical properties? And and the last one
We
would have been
didn't
the
have
brown.
Brown House then.
Pre.
That was my question.
Yeah,
It was the historical cabins at the Bledsoe, it was the
Yes.
Douglas Clark House, it was the Bridal House, and the barn. We had the barn at the time, the Comer Barn.
Okay. All right, so, this committee needs to decide, we're gonna start looking at this in December. So at our next meeting, if we could have a new item to discuss, what process we'd like to go forward with, our bids. If we'd like to continue, with what has been done the last 4 years, if we'd like to, go back to what it was prior, unless you have a motion for something now.
I would just make a comment. I'd like to see if, when we do that, that we have a positive and a negative for either way, bullet points, so we're not looking through a bunch of paperwork, that maybe we have just one piece of paper, positive, negatives, and recommendations, and that, I think, would go a long way in timeliness and getting it done, and that way we can move forward with it real quick. Because you're running out of time, because she has to start doing her gig in December or January. January.
Start collecting.
And this would just stay old business, just come back in December.
You might want to invite the broker and ask them to present their case of what they're providing.
That's a good idea.
That may be the best way to deal with the whole thing, see what they are providing.
Bring the
to us.
broker.
Do you
And-
want them coming back before December, or?
Probably next month.
Yes, on the next agenda.
When's our next meeting? Is it every other night?
December will be the next regular called.
But if
We
you're gonna try-
meet November?
We only meet every 3 months for this.
So I'm under,
I'll move back a month.
But I mean, we can schedule one.
yes, I'd like to schedule one. I am under the gun to finish these meetings in an hour and a half, and I need to get these old items off of here.
In October.
So if we could
or
meet in October and knock some of this off, I could meet
y'all
my
wanna try to
requirements.
schedule, see when you wanna meet right now, like try to set a date?
Might be a good idea.
Can
'cause
we,
they're filling up.
Or
Can
I
we-
can email or.
Yeah, can we arrange that after the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that all right with everybody, and we get these items cleaned up before we get to the point that we need to start bidding out stuff? Make sure that all the insurance is on that we want, and,
You guys good at inviting the broker in October to kind of present what they're doing?
yeah.
You came to buy.
So it'll be a special called meeting for the broker to present his case.
I'd probably do that and evaluate your,
We're not calling it a special call
No,
meeting.
I don't want
Okay,
to.
just a meeting.
I would just call them, but I'd make sure it included the broker and these insurance they just showed you that had the different limits on them. You probably want to evaluate those.
And could you ask the mayor to come? I know that he presented us the broker's letter, and I don't know if he has additional information. Just, make him aware if he has additional information, since he had the letter from the broker. I would have asked I'd ask him a few questions if he came today, but.
I'm just trying to save them some time. Do we need one-to-one anymore?
Thank you. We do not have any more one-to-one questions. I mean,
There's nothing else that's however related on this agenda.
I don't understand what usable is.
USAble, it's the life
USAble.
policies.
Are
He
you
doesn't
doing
have
that?
anything to do with that.
You don't have
That's,
anything to do with that.
David is the one that brought that, and, but
Perfect.
Blue Cross won't, so
Yeah.
Scott can leave too. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let me ask them. So if I could ask, for a motion to, suspend the rules just for, Mr. Shope to talk.
Motion to suspend.
So,
Do I get on you?
All in favor? Aye.
If you're going to listen to us and brokers comparing, there's one very important thing that hasn't been mentioned today. And I assume we'll have an opportunity to present as well in that meeting. But between now and then, I want to make sure there's not some wrong ideas that are thought. ESP, we've worked for y'all for decades, but we are a very unique organization because we do not take commissions or any other things that they may offer to enhance us picking them. We don't take any of that. We haven't. We don't. Now, if you want to check my records, I did take a Blue Cross commission several years ago because I wrote a policy on myself, an individual policy, and I thought it would be probably a good idea if I kept the commission to bring premium down on just my policy. So that's going to show up. But we do not do that. There's another very important thing that's different in that a broker will tell you all the services that they present. Included in there will be legal, auditing, several different things that they offer. And we don't do that. We charge you for what we know we are going to be asked to do through history. We know what it takes, we know how long it takes, and that's what our fee is based on. So when you look at the difference on your benefit fee of $7,000 something, whatever, I don't know what our
7,200.
yeah, 7,200 and 50,000. That's, you got to think about that. But included now in their fee are if you need an attorney, if you need auditing, if you need those kinds of things, they say that is included in the fee, whether you use it or not. Okay? with us, and we've done this many times working with David, if y'all need an auditor, you need an insurance attorney, you need something, we know some people out there that we can recommend. We recommend them to you, you work directly with them, they send you a bill, they get paid, we don't get a check in the mail, we get no overrides, nothing under the table, we have no connection with these people. We would just recommend that these folks have worked for, say, Montgomery County, or they have done this and they've done a good job. So you don't get charged for those fees every year, whether you use them or not.
Commissioner Boyd, can I clarify one thing? For instance, when we bid with Brittany, she writes the specs, we work with her and we bid it. But when we receive back the bids from life insurance, the ones that bid on those life insurances are brokers and they do get brokerage fees. Those folks do, so you are looking kind of at apples to oranges a little bit, because if we work with Brittany bidding it and they get back bids, most of the bids they get back will probably be from brokers, I would dare say. That we'll have a fee in there in some form or a commission, so the same 50 may be buried back in the insurance versus the other. But my point is, right now, is if we are doing the bids, no matter which way we do it, the best set of controls is we work with the broker or with our consultants to get whichever direction it goes, and we run them through the finance department instead of not being seen. It's more transparent.
And thank you, David. And historically, brokers do not like us. I'll just tell you that up front, because, and we've done this with some clients, you don't always need a broker, because we have placed our clients directly with an insurance company. And we help with the questions that may come up, but basically you wind up talking to the insurance company anyway, or the claims department. You're already working with them, not the broker. And so there are insurance companies out there who will write direct. And we've had them come back to us and say, well, there's this commission, and we say, we don't want that. Well, you're a licensed agent in Tennessee. Yes, because we want to be able to say, we know everything they know. That's the only reason we've got those licenses. But we do not take those. That is the difference. And the broker in total would just assume we go away.
That's actually also not the only difference. Let me also state that we do replacement cost values, which are those reports that Jeremy and Kim work together and do. And so I think that's actually later on in the agenda here. But when reconciling what is on the report from the broker, it is, how much higher is this? That's the property report, right?
Yeah, so this list you gave out, is that what you're currently insured at? It's $35 million higher than what I reported to you.
Right, and so what our replacement cost values.
What we reported to you was for the
Isn't that
current
cost?
policy year though, so I'm just wondering where all that change happened.
So that's later in the agenda. I just wanted to bring that up because we do replacement
sorry.
costs. No, I asked you
It's a
what the
bit
total
shocking.
was.
Yeah.
So we do replacement cost values as just part of the fee that we do as well. We don't do annual revisits. That would change our contract some because again, we only charge you every year. But this is, we redo reports every year, which are based on actual fees that are current. So that's also something else we do that you really don't get from brokers. They like to use realtor fees. So anyway, we'll talk about that later, but that is another thing we do that brokers don't usually do. So, okay,
Thank you
that's
for the
that.
opportunity
Thank
to
you.
share that.
We can talk about that later.
Yes. Okay, we'll call this back into session. Mr. Long, I'd like to ask you, regarding your question about the broker fees, can you work up some type of comparison? Just a rough, I'm not asking for detailed dollars, but something from past history or, I don't know, a comparison from other counties. I don't know what you could come up with, and you can definitely come back to this board and say it was impossible.
Well, I think right now the clearest thing is have the broker present what they are providing, because just like I said earlier, when we bid live, everybody that bid on it had a brokerage fee in it. So as you're saying, when we bid this, it may be one's come back with brokerage fees with or without. The question is, it may not be as easy for us to tell at that point.
Okay.
And definitely going back in history, it's going to be very difficult to impossible to tell what was buried in there and what wasn't. But I think right now, asking them what they provide may be the fairest kind of way to look at it.
Excuse me, but wasn't one of the goals here to see where we were duplicative
And it
in our
looks like
payments? That's, I thought was,
coverage, in our,
uh,
what we were
paying
hiring.
for services.
Yeah, paying for
Yeah,
services.
that's, to me, that was the
And that's, I think-
underlying goal of what
That was-
this was tendered, when we talked about it last time.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that not what we
But I
got
think that's
to?
what Bob's alluding to.
And Mary's comparison that she's wanting is what services are offered in comparison.
So I think it's what Bob was alluding to, that they provide certain services, brokers may provide different services because they provide legal services or other things that are outside there. But the question is it something you want? So I think the easiest thing to have the broker come down and tell what they provide, and ESP and Bob's gonna be here so they can tell us what overlaps, should be able to. Does that make sense, Ms. Commissioner?
Yes.
Boyd? We can see if it's duplicated or unnecessary, or you can.
And that'll be in October and give us plenty of time to get our questions wrapped up before December and January.
Was there a reason that the Commercial Insurance Associates was brought on? I mean, back in
I'm
2021?
planning on going back to read the minutes. I don't have an answer.
As I'm saying, at the time it was run by Miss Denon and she's gone, so we're not really sure. I'm not sure what the reasoning was.
Because, like I say, that the duplicative services seems to be between ESP and CIA. It's just what is provided in benefits, you know, they do it direct, you do it by referral and that kind of thing, so.
So
But to his point, we're paying for it whether we get it
Yeah,
or not.
Yeah,
and
I mean, we're not using what they have as far as,
Right.
Need to find out if it's something you need to be using or not.
what we may if we
So-
start researching the Brown House.
So we'll pick up on this item at the next meeting. I'm ready to move on to the next item unless someone has a comment. We'll pick this item up at the next meeting.
I've got it coming back
Without
2 times,
objection.
next meeting and in December.
It is gonna come up next time in that we can discuss the comparison and the broker will be here.
Mhm.
And we are going to make a decision in December
Yes.
on what we're going to do.
Yes.
So I'm saying that it will be on our next agenda
Yes.
and we'll invite the broker. We'll have a comparison sheet completed.
And the mayor.
And please, the mayor is a member, or the mayor's supposed to be here, I don't know. But please tell him we'll be discussing this if he'd like to attend.
Okay.
And then we'll just move forward. We're hoping that we can get this resolved in October, but if not, we've got a couple months before December.
Okay.
Good. Item E, K-9 coverage. I believe I read in that email that it's not a significant item.
Well, it's covered under our excess policy and not the property policy. They don't consider that property. So any incident would come under the excess liability, which would have to meet the $1 million deductible before anything would be covered. So we're self-insured basically.
Okay.
K-9 coverage.
Because it's considered personal property?
I guess, yeah.
Okay.
And here we're talking about the animal, not
Yes.
injuries to
Yes,
people,
just
just if the animal
It
gets.
says they off
Okay.
leash.
All right,
If
so
dog is off leash at the wrong time.
I don't think there's any action needed there. We answered the question on the
Correct.
K-9. Next item F, loss run for EMA. We discussed that last time. We had some sheets and we were hoping to get more detail, but I'm not sure. We don't have any more detail, do we?
Well, I mean, those are the injuries that were reported within a 10-month span for their volunteers, any volunteers that were injured in 10 years, within 10 years. There were 4, I believe. I don't have details of those injuries other than what cost is listed on there. I think only one of them was a significant injury though.
Is there, and I don't recall, did we say, I know that Kim's gonna have the history from this going forward and everything. Did we say anything about asking EMA for the history files? Mr. Long, do you have anything from internal controls or anything from finance?
Well, we would have that, we would have their bills and their coverage, but we wouldn't get claims from them.
Is there any value in the historical or no?
They were filed to the workers' comp.
Yeah, it was-
policy
Okay,
that's
so they're-
through EMA.
So they're in,
It's not through us. It's filed through their individual policy.
You know, we would have it be as a bill and the coverage limits, I mean, we wouldn't have claims history.
I think F is a lead into H
Claims
as
history.
to whether we want to bring it in-house or keep it a third party insurer.
I think that's what we had talked about. That it was-
so,
The question is, do you want to insure a bunch of volunteers?
Yeah, I mean,
That's the
that's,
question.
that's up to y'all.
so with the volunteers, at EMA, I thought earlier that we discussed that we needed you to come back and tell us all of the different components of the EMA, such as if they were volunteers at another agency. And we'd ask that you could detail that out for us, some of the things we needed to consider. Did we not discuss that?
I'm not completely following what you're asking there.
So with the EMA insurance, we have 3 policies with them. So we need more, I feel like we need more information on what we're looking at. I mean, it's essential that we take care of our volunteers. Are we doing it in the best method possible is the question at this table, I feel.
Maybe we should have the initiator of the policy, Mr. Widener, to be here to talk about it and find out what he's been doing, so that we can ask him some questions. Maybe he could come back to our next meeting.
By in October?
Yeah.
You want to have Kim by October?
Maybe we should spread it out. We're gonna have a pretty lengthy discussion with the broker. We can do Mr. Widener in November. I mean, there's no rush.
The only thing is, this policy is up for renewal in December.
The workers' comp.
Policy is on a different scale. Now, my intention, if we keep it, I will get it to where it's renewed in July, like, they want all the policies to renew into July. But this particular one expires in December, so we'll have to renew it or not in December.
Could just add 2 items for October to make a shorter meeting.
And then
The
just,
broker, Mr. Widener.
I like that idea. Can I get a motion that we'll handle just the 2 items next time and let old business go?
So
We're talking about just talking to the brokers and to Mr. White.
Mr. Widener. In October, I'll make a motion that in October we'll limit our meeting to the discussion of the brokers and how we'd like to proceed. We'll make, and
So moved.
And the second one will be to discuss the EMA policies and have Mr. Widener speak to that.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye. So, and then if we could just jump back now to G, we'll run dock. What was the final decision on that? Mary, we're gonna find out from tourism that we're not insured, county's
I
not
haven't found
insuring
out
it?
that yet.
Okay,
I'll have to ask them at our next meeting.
all right. I believe that was the outstanding question.
It's
Anybody
not
have-
on our schedule
It's
currently,
not on
so
ours.
we need to know if it needs to be
All
or
right,
not.
so we'll just let that roll.
Who uses this dock?
Tourism.
For what?
Fishing tournaments, things like that.
How many tournaments do we have?
I'm not real sure. I know that when Flippers was in business, they had a lot of bass tournaments. Since Flippers sold, that has declined, but I think they have a new owner. So I think that that's gonna pick back up. So right now in that flux, I'm not sure. But the problem with letting it go, the boat dock going away with, not having somebody over it, once you once you give up your boat dock permit, you can't get it back. And so we don't wanna give it up if we're gonna use it in the future. So I'm gonna have to talk to tourism, because it's kinda like this, you know, tourism, the use of it is seasonal anyway. You know, you have some people use it during the winter just to come in and go, but summertime in spring is their big time for fishing. So I'll have to ask them.
And maybe we could just take care of this now. I'd like to make a motion for Commissioner Janung to inform tourism that we are not insuring Bull Run Dock, and if they need to, or whatever they need to, they should take care of it.
I will take care of that next time.
Can I get a second to my motion?
Second.
On favor?
Aye.
So that item is now off of our agenda. So we've discussed H, we jump down to I, building schedule. So the building schedule. If we could vote to suspend the rules, to hear from ESP on the building schedule.
Did it vote?
No, they did.
No motion.
So motion.
Motion to do it, yeah, sure.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
So what we do when we say this building, we would show up, we measure this building, we note how it's built, when it was built, if it's built on a hill or on a plain, all that kind of stuff. Then we enter it into a software that then compares those building components with similar buildings, like other administrative buildings that are built this way in this area. And then our value is determined by those buildings that were actually built on publicly available contracts and that sort of thing. So our numbers, and they're usually centered around major population centers. So this one's closer to Nashville, but it's a little less, but not much. And then those are calculated again every year. So we'll go back to a building, say you add a wing on this building, we would come back to this building and remeasure the whole thing and then recalculate it with a new replacement cost. So that is where we come up with the values that we report to you. And what we report, I'm just talking building values, I'm not talking contents. Contents, you have to maintain your contents values. There's nobody that's going to do that for you. If you're not doing it yourself, you're not keeping up with it. It's not going to happen. But we do your buildings. So the building value alone that we reported to you for your current policy year was $239,355,165. The building value on this report that you are currently insured under says $274,301,794, which is a difference of just under $35 million that I didn't tell you to use. I just want to know where that number came from. And if I don't know, I can't have a discussion about something I don't understand. So I don't know where that 274 number came from. Did they give you reports to show, or did they just give you a...
They just write in the spreadsheet that that's what they're.
So no individual building reports to show you why they're changing. So yeah, and then it's not like they're all different from the schedule that we have on file. And I'm not accusing, I don't know what's going on here, and this is a lot of money, so I have to ask. This is what you pay me to do.
So do you send CIA?
Yes.
You send them the list that
Yes.
ESP
Yes.
provides?
And
And
I
then
guess
they
they
come
use
back
their-
with a spreadsheet?
I mean, yes. I'm saying they're using their formula instead of the same one that you use.
Right.
But they don't come out and individually look at our properties unless, we would ask them to.
Right. I mean, I know that there was a difference with the courthouse, which is just an anomaly all on its own. And so I just put $100 million on it and we'll be fine, because I couldn't calculate a number that high because no one had built a building like that in this area that expensively.
Yeah.
And so it's going to take a while for your contract to work its way into the system for everybody else. You've raised the price of,
We raised the bar.
you raised
We
the
did build something
bar is another
incredibly
word.
large.
Yes.
Pricey. Yeah.
Yes, so, so next few years, that number will start ticking up that we calculate. So that's why we were like, we just put $100 million, but then they put $105 million on it, which they explained in their email that was there was some reason they did that, but the 100 million was calculated for the current year. And so that's why I was on that one building. But then if you look at the whole schedule, it's 15% higher than what was reported to you for your current policy. I don't know why, I don't know who, and I don't know how.
What could be the reason?
The numbers were changed. That's all I'm prepared to comment on.
Well, some of
I
these.
don't know who did it. It could have been automatic, their system could have done it. It may not be a person, it may be just a systemic thing in the insurance business, I don't know. But I know the numbers we give you are good, and that's why we do this for so many people.
Who could possibly benefit?
It's just the insurance company, maybe? Again, you're asking me to comment on things that I don't know.
I realize.
And I don't, it makes, if you insure more buildings and it's more premium, I don't know. I just know that's not the number I gave you.
So we're paying for $35 million more insurance than we need. Is that what you're saying?
Then I think you need, yes.
That's
And
a lot of money.
I hate to say we paid $50,000 to do it.
Madam Chairman, I think we have to keep in mind that we have consultants to advise us, and we need to take their advice.
I mean, you did. You sent this to them, and you sent the one I gave you to them, and then they just sent you this back. So somebody didn't like the numbers we gave you, and if you've got evidence that my numbers are wrong, I love it. Show me the data. That's what I do. But right now I can't explain the $35 million difference, and I don't like not being able to explain that stuff.
Well, the good news is, in October, the broker will be here at the same time, and they can help us understand this question. If you could
I will invite them, yes.
ask them
I will
to,
invite them, I don't know who they will see, but I will
okay.
invite them.
Part of that be where the courthouse was in flux and we were all trying to determine the value, could they got picked up maybe?
Yeah, I mean, when I calculate, I think I came up with just a few million under 100 million. This is just the most. I was trying to max out the report. And so I couldn't get the 100 million you wanted. So I was like, let's just do 100 million on that building. But then when it came back around, it was 105 million, which was, I thought we agreed on 100 million.
Are these the figures you gave us, or
No.
are these the figures CIA?
Those are the figures of CIA.
CIA.
I'm sure, I mean,
and we don't have your report.
I
It's-
didn't make a copy of it.
I can send that to you.
Yes, that would be helpful.
I have it too, so I can see it.
I can send you access to a folder that's got all the individual property reports that shows how much the roof cost on that building, and how much the walls cost on that building, and how much the HVAC cost in this one.
So I'll make a motion that,
Well, this,
risk management email and ask for reconciliation from the broker. If I could get a second on that real quick. Are you
before we
on?
do that, I have a
Yes, ma'am.
question. So when I'm looking through here while you all were chatting, these addresses, 1051 Old Highway 109, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 buildings, and they're all different costs. And the first one is 1,800,000, and then it goes down with different. I'm not clear why all these. This is the same address with all these different
Multiple buildings in a single
multiple, like
address.
sheds or something.
So, yeah, so like think of a school. A school is gonna have one address and then
Well, this is the
37
highway
buildings.
department.
I know, it's a school.
Isn't highway, highway has a bunch of little buildings.
Yeah, that's,
Salt sheds, vehicle
Yeah.
sheds.
Yeah, they have a bunch of buildings on it.
if it doesn't share like a roof line, it is a separate building to me.
Okay.
I know they have their main administration building, and then they have all these little storage buildings and
Yeah.
repair buildings, and, there's a bunch of stuff.
That's where you get so you see the 33.11, that'd be the 33 location and the 11th building at that location.
Okay, now I understand. Okay, thank you.
So my motion is for risk management
That's second.
to contact the broker in a separate email and ask for a reconciliation between the numbers provided by ESP and the numbers that we insured. And if you could, yeah, and then send that information to the committee. Can I have a vote? Bob gave me a second.
Motion.
Motion.
Do I vote yes?
You vote. All in favor?
Uh,
Passes. And yeah, just send that to us as soon as you get an answer.
Were there any questions on the schedule?
I'm sure we'll have more next time. Anyone else? I'm sorry, if you have any questions. All right, we'll move on to J. The OJI plan for the sheriff's office. Mr. Lawyer, would you like to take that?
Well, this is gonna be me and, Mr. Long, but basically what we've got going on is the sheriff, and it's the only one I've been able to identify, has an OJI plan where they, let the county pay the workers' comp up to the 66, and then they come in and fill that gap out of their lines for the remaining 33 1/3%. So my biggest problem is, as a policy for county employees, that's not consistent with everybody else. And then we get into the issues of proper withholdings. Are they, if they're 100%, should things be handled differently? And I'll leave that up to Mr. Long on that. But we got to get consistent. Even though it is a sheriff and elected official, the employees are county employees, and we've got to be treating everybody the same.
So what you got going on right now is the OJI plan pays everybody, including the sheriff, if it's eligible, based on your coverage, 2/3 of your salary, just round it to that. They're paying which is tax exempt, because under the IRS regs, if you're following a valid workers' comp plan, it's tax exempt, so we're validly in an OJI plan. The sheriff's department comes back and pays the remainder out of their budget, the other 1/3. So you have a couple of things going on. One, they've actually could make more not working. And number two, as Eric's saying, it brings up a question: are they actually following your OJI plan, or are they following a valid OJI plan? Should we go back and look at the taxability of the first 2/3? Is one question, and then as Eric's saying, there's a question of treating employees totally different with really no justification. Potential on that too. So you really got two issues. And it wouldn't involve a lot because they don't have, how many employees on workers' comp, right? Maybe one or two at a time tops.
I've got 3 right now.
3 right now. So it's not a lot.
Do you have a recommendation on how we could handle this?
Me?
Either of you, from the legal aspect and from the accounting and the IRS. And
I'm a policy guy, so I say either your decision is to, from a legal perspective, is to kick everybody up to 100% or knock them down to 66.
And I think the same thing if they're gonna continue to pay extra, and I've mentioned this when Ms. Dennon was here. We need to probably get the IRS or maybe even a tax attorney to look at it and see what they think if we're actually taxing the folks appropriately. The question is, we're in a gray area, are we following a valid workers' comp plan at this point? The statute is for following a valid workers' comp. The state law allows us not to create our own. We've created our own, but now they're paying outside of this other third, so it may make the first 66 taxable.
how long have we been doing this?
Since before my time, and I brought it up earlier, and then now, because it's been one of my concerns, and now I think it's Mr. Sittler's seen the same thing, and he's got similar concerns. It's been going on a long time, even before your time, I would dare say.
No, it started,
When did it start? Was it before mine?
probably around 2007, 2008.
I
I
started
don't
in
remember
9.
exactly, but it's been a long time.
And I started in 2009.
So your recommendation, from what I hear you saying, is that we get a tax attorney to review this?
Well, if you're gonna continue following this practice,
Because
then the
it's
other
outside of the
question, then the other question comes about, you're treating the, as
Yeah,
Mr.
it's
Sittler's
different.
concerns, you're treating the employee
Yeah.
classes differently with the question of what justifications,
It's almost like double dipping.
in what justification.
I guess it's safe to say if we don't knock them down to 66, we will have to entertain all this other legal opinion
So the vote
to
is.
justify why they get to continue to do it outside of the plan. And the bigger issue, like he pointed out, was the only reason we get to work under our OJI plan is because we've met the statute, and if this throws us in flux, we've got a huge problem.
They need to go back to workers' comp.
So the motion would be to, reduce it to the actual 66%, which is under the plan, and do that, and then they can come back with their own ideas about why or who or.
Why don't we add this to our October meeting? Just amend that previous motion and have this.
And maybe let the
have this-
sheriff come and
Yeah, why don't we
discuss
do
why,
that?
cause he,
These are big.
Yeah,
He's-
that was my next question I was waiting to ask you.
he's,
Have you informed him of the?
he's always
the full-
amenable to whatever legal advice I give him, but if there is some pushback that he can legally give, he's probably gonna want to.
Yeah,
So I would just soon him vent that
I'd
with,
like
with
that.
you all.
Before we make any
Yeah,
changes.
and, I believe it was the sheriff's the only one, right?
Sheriff's Bill.
Okay.
Then I'll make a motion to amend our October meeting to include the tax lawyer and the sheriff's department.
I don't think we'll be.
I don't think you need the tax, we're in a
Yeah,
gray
but
area. I
let's
think if
wait
we-
and see, if we get him down, it's
Okay.
moot.
I think
I know this is a public meeting and everything, however, it might be worth also considering between now and then, how, if we do kick them down to 66, how we're gonna implement that, and it probably would be better if we did this as a tapering off, let the 3 taper down till we get those 3 off, and from this point forward, it's a standard policy across the board, because that's where we're
Grandfather
gonna
those
get some
3.
issues, is kicking it down in the middle of somebody's
Understand.
OJI.
And don't take me saying 100% that we've got an issue on that, because you gotta think we're taxing them on the last third, but the question comes about, if you have a written plan and somebody's getting something additional, are they really under the plan? It's kind of a gray area, and I don't know if we continue indefinitely down that area.
What kind of money are we talking about? Over a period of time?
Well, right now they've got 3 on the plan, and they usually fluctuate, 1 to 3 or 4, they don't have a lot of people.
No, they don't. They're really good about putting their people back to work on light duty, but some of them can't work the light duty, so those are the only ones that I usually see. But,
So are we talking thousands?
no, I
Hundreds?
wouldn't think,
Over years, we're talking thousands, because of the third.
And my
Well-
next question is this a budgeted item? Where is this money coming
It's
from?
coming through, they're paying them through the regular payroll line items.
Yeah, it's already in their line.
So they're paying them through regular payroll line items, and, but it brings back the question where the dollars really come about, if it comes about, the question that if you don't have justification treating the employees differently.
and.
Why the other employees shouldn't be covered is where you kind of come back around.
Does that 1/3 also include benefits like retirement payments and stuff?
Yes.
So we pay them retirement on that 1/3 also?
And that's the thing for the other employees that don't get. they
They're
only get this-
missing that.
Because I take their insurance premiums from their 66 2/3, so it even reduces it more.
Right.
Whereas theirs insurance benefits are coming out of their 1/3.
But you are correct.
Would this include employees who are not officers?
Yes,
Any
Secretary.
sheriff,
yes,
Bookkeeper.
any sheriff's office employee,
Clerks?
yeah, corrections, everybody.
So, I'm sorry, did we complete that motion? Bob made a
No.
motion, I'll second it.
Well, we need to amend it then.
Yes, you
Just-
did. Yes,
just,
please.
Just bring in the sheriff's department and we will discuss that in the October meeting.
I'll
okay,
second.
Minus the-
that's what I got down.
All in favor? Aye. All right, we'll move to new business. I'd like to extend the offer, if y'all would like to stay, you're welcome, but if it doesn't involve you, you can leave. But, we move to new business, workers' compensation payments. I feel like that has all been rolled up in our previous discussions. Is this an additional piece, Mr. Lawyer?
It's just the payments from June,
Oh.
July, and August.
I see.
They're usually approval, or used to approval, but.
In liabilities, maybe, did they, or no?
Occupational injuries. It's in the packet.
Page 46 to 53.
Thank you, Bob.
Same thing we've been looking at for months.
I can't remember, we've been treating this as an info only, or does this need a vote?
We've been treating it as info, I think,
Okay.
if that's okay. I mean, legally, is that okay?
I don't know that it requires a vote because it's already being paid, right?
So it's docket.
Yeah.
Unless it's in the resolution.
If you could double check that that's okay for us to docket, or if there's a resolution that we need to vote on
Okay.
in the future. Just to be clear today, if we could just vote to accept it, and that will clear that.
So moved.
And
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we move on. Item B, emergency personal vehicle accidents.
Oh,
That was a legal item.
yeah, we've been, oh God, what did I do with that? You didn't bring an extra copy, did you?
That's my copy. I got two.
We've had a string of accidents, and I'm not sure, it was EMA and the sheriff's department, it was vehicle accidents. And I do know that in the very distant past, there was a resolution involving what the departments would do as far as accidents and training that needed to be involved, or just something so that it's being addressed, that if it's the fault of the driver, that something's happening within the county to stay on top of it. And these just came out of the blue, and I was just bringing it to this committee to see if anything, you all want to go down that road as far as entertaining researching this, what was done in the past, and if you all want to get in the middle of trying to breathe some life back into it, or if you just wanted to leave it alone.
Anybody? I have something, but I'll wait.
No, go ahead.
So I went back and I have started researching the foundation of how our insurance board was created back in 1989. And they said, and I haven't read all the way through it, they could have changed their mind, but they said their priority was to create a safety program to reduce the risk, that was the whole foundation of risk management, was a safety program to limit the liability to our citizens. So this actually is something that, looking at risk management, I would have assumed that they would have been tracking risky accidents and trying to put some guardrails around. But we haven't looked at it as this board in the last, since we've been seated.
I would make a motion that we ask the departments, including EMS. Did you mean EMA or EMS?
I apologize, I did mean EMS.
That's what I thought, because I have been in a situation several times, and I was around when we asked them to do a certain practice that they haven't done. I've been at intersections where the light has been in favor of me, and an ambulance would come through the intersection and not blow their air horn as they were coming through the intersection. So, and I had wondered about that because when the judge's relative was killed down on Gallatin Road, we instituted that years ago. I would make a motion that we ask the departments to provide us what they plan to do for training of people involved in accidents and when that would take place. And they could have some parameters around that, but I just asked for each department to submit to us so we can review it. Not that that's what will be acceptable, but that we could review what they plan to do in case of safety issues or accidents within the department. I make that a motion.
Second.
Yes, and just, that's what brought it to my attention was, I see these quite frequently when Kim will come up to me and we'll decide whether we're gonna approve something. And it was stuff like an ambulance at Chick-fil-A backing into something, and
Yes.
it was things like that. That's what caught my eye was, is anybody doing any remedial follow-up to try to prevent this or make somebody accountable? So,
We need to
So-
hear it from each department.
We have a motion, we have a second and a vote. All in favor? Yes.
Uh-huh.
And if I could ask, I should have put it on the motion, but if you could just send us that out as soon as you get it. We may have to,
send what out?
when you get back, the department's policies, recommendations. Or if you could report back next time on when we might see those, a timetable.
Yeah, not a problem. Of course, Mayor wants something, we should.
All right, new business item C. I think we've covered that. We're going to cover that in the next meeting even more. The comparison of CSP versus CIA. Item D, county official bonds. Mr. Long, I'd assume that's you?
Wasn't.
Actually, it came up for me, but
Long.
it does involve Mr. Long. The question was, first one, we've got to approve the bond for Sheriff Craddock.
I thought that was on last night's agenda.
Right, so that happened, but the question that came up out of that was, are we in a position to where we want to, or can we start taking these required bonds in-house versus getting them, can we self-insure our bonds, basically? And I don't know the answer to that. Did we ever come to a conclusion?
So-
We're still looking at it.
Okay.
I know we discussed self-insuring our bonds, but is it possible that there is an umbrella out there that we could put them all under one umbrella and get a better deal? I mean, is that a thing too?
Yeah,
I mean, right now, we're going individually, Mr. Lowing?
We have to go, right now we pay for them individually, most of them was on a 4-year term. The only one that's a substantial size is the trustees, and it's based on the revenues of the county.
Right.
And that's the one we've never claimed, but it's something we could look at, but there's some requirements if you're gonna self-insure, and in the past, they've always determined it's probably not worth all the effort. And we can go back and look at it again if you want.
Is there any way, I mean, we could do the self-insure, but then have just a policy for catastrophic?
We can
Where
go
we
look at
wipe
it.
out everything?
Well, there's statutes required for each one of the officials, so we have to go back, and that's something Eric could have to look at with me, is what the statutory requirement is, and it's a self-insurance company.
Okay. I'll make a motion that you come back with a recommendation for the November meeting. Can I get a second?
Second.
October or December?
November.
I thought we were
Oh.
meeting in October and
I'm sorry.
December.
It gets so
You wanna do
confusing.
December?
October next time and December would be the next regular scheduled meeting, but you can have one in November. I just wanna be clear in the minutes.
Can we do December on that?
December.
If so, you need to go.
Well, I've got that meeting.
We'll make it,
I thought that meeting was here. It's not here.
No, it's
at
the
DOC.
site.
so
Site
let's just,
violation.
I'll make a motion that we roll item E and F
I didn't realize that.
to the next, till December.
Well, see, Gallagher.
Is it urgent?
Well, they're asking me to sign the broker agreement without you guys approval. I want to. What they are, they're the broker for Vision and for the US Able products. And we do use them some for Section 125. They have attorneys on site, or attorneys on staff, we use them for that. And they will, if we want to, answer questions, but we usually do that ourselves. They get a brokerage, it's not a fee we pay, but they get a percentage on the US Able. They came in-house about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe.
We don't have to sign either. We have that option to deny signature on it. I just have to let them know something.
So if we deny signature, what they say happens, it's
She
automatic.
said nothing, since they're a voluntary broker, nothing happens. This is just their in-house keeping paperwork
Oh.
straight. And then if we also want legal to change anything, they're open to that. They just want us to redline it and send it to them. So they're pretty open to whatever, I just have to give them an answer.
Well, we do have through USA, we do have our HSA, and we do have Section 125 questions. We use them in Brittany a lot, and we have questions. Because it's a little convoluted on your Section 125. It's kind of counterintuitive and a little convoluted. And
So I do have a question, because I looked over what they sent you. It does say group term life. It doesn't say voluntary. Are they taking in the policy that you assigned to Malone previously, her bid?
They need to change that.
Okay, because I was like, well, I didn't know if they snuck that in there. So yes, that would need to be changed for sure. And just make sure that everything on their list says voluntary. These are additional products sold to your employees.
And then F is probably like a 2-minute. I don't know, I can tell you what that's about. So if you want to pursue it.
2 minutes.
F, you know, right now you have a wellness plan, and one of the things under the wellness plan is you charge more if you're a smoker and make you non-compliant. Looking at our life insurance, when you do your voluntary life year, we've been using the blended, which probably less than 50% of your employers do that now, because what it does is it brings down all the smokers' premiums and brings up all the non-smokers. So right now what we're really doing in reality is we're subsidizing for the smokers' life with the non-smokers right now. So the question is, do you want to change it? There'll be people unhappy and people happy about it. But the question is, you've got a wellness plan, which is discouraging smoking because of the cost, but through our practice, which just wasn't caught until I started looking at it, we're actually, better word, subsidizing it from people's premiums across premiums.
And this is just voluntary. Every employee receives a life policy. That is not included in
Up to
this.
100, that's up to 100,000 based on their actual salaries up to $100,000.
This would just be that additional.
So notice you go in and you buy
Just the
voluntary.
voluntary.
So when you're buying voluntaries, what I'm saying right now, we have one set amount, so if you're a smoker or non-smoker, you pay the same. When you look at that in reality, say if you're the same age and you split that, your non-smokers are going down, your smokers are going up. So what you're doing is you are subsidizing the smokers' premiums on their life with the non-smokers. And we have a wellness plan that's complete opposition to that.
I see that.
Do you want to continue that? That may be something you want to kind of digest for the next meeting, but I do have the quotes here for the changes from USA.
If you want a legal spin on this, I say it's all or nothing. If you're gonna make it a factor on the health, then I think you're gonna need to do it here. It's consistency. That's the
what
best
I'm
defense to
thinking.
any case.
Mary, you're a medical professional. Weigh in.
Run it again, I'm sorry, I was reading something, what was the question?
So should we penalize smoker nicotine users the same as we do for health on the life insurance?
We're not penalizing, we're
Well,
using the combined premium.
And it's additional life insurance, not your base policy. Every employee gets a base policy.
But in reality, you're also punishing the non-smokers, not making them pay a higher premium.
Yeah, see that, I would say that the smokers are a higher risk, and they know that, and they're vapors too. So, that shouldn't be held against the ones that are following compliance.
This is because it's the way it's been set up for years. We've had that combined premium for life, and then looking at it lately, I brought up the question, it was my question, why would we have the split in our wellness plan because of the higher cost, but then we're subsidizing it through everybody's premiums on life insurance. Didn't really catch your attention, just having there's so much stuff going on. But I thought I should bring that to the board.
So
because it's your decision.
So the remedy is that when you, I know that most of the places I worked and employees that, are dealing with that, they do have to pay a higher premium for the cost of smoking and vaping. Are you adding vaping in there too? That's an inhalant.
I don't know how US Able views it.
Tobacco.
It's
tobacco.
nicotine.
It's nicotine. I know in the wellness plan it's nicotine. I can't speak for US Able, but yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's definitely a health risk.
So, I would motion that we change that formula to make it reflect our values in our healthcare plan.
Because my thing, and just real quick, in the meeting earlier, I mean, you've already got this report and one-on-one that says, 186 people non-compliant. Now, I don't know who that is, but if you're not compliant with the, in my world, we fire you. But, you know, I can't do that, so.
That's a question I have, is compliance with this voluntary health insurance, is it based on the one-to-one results?
I wouldn't think that they talk. And here's the deal, and I do this is about education to your employees though. When you lie to a life insurance company and they find out that you said you don't use tobacco, but you actually were using it, they have every right in the world to not pay to your family, which is absolutely terrible for your family who's expecting life insurance payout. But I'm pretty sure one-to-one and US Able are not gonna talk.
So that, you're saying
It's
the
a
life is
self-report.
questionnaire
I have to
based?
say,
Okay.
I use or don't use.
Amy?
But they need to understand legal obligation, like what you're saying. When you say you don't use, they can hold you to that based on an autopsy. I mean, and not pay out, and they're within their rights to do so.
Exactly.
Question from her, is this gonna change the premiums to kind of equalize? It's
Yeah.
not gonna have anybody that's a smoker taken off?
Correct.
Okay. It's just basically, if you use a smoker, you're gonna charge the higher premium based on risk and lower to the non-smokers.
Yeah.
Versus subsidizing the smokers.
So I made a
They'll show the
motion.
difference in July when we, or well, in May during open enrollment.
They'll tell them how
split
much
it up
theirs
and
went
tell
up or
them when it's
down.
split.
Yep.
Okay, and I made the motion that we change the formula to reflect our values in our healthcare policy. Can I get a second?
Second.
Vote? All in favor?
Aye.
And that
Wait a second.
brings us to the lawyer. Did you need anything from Gallagher?
The
we
Gallagher,
have
I think
enough?
right now, they need to rework the.
We have-
Bob?
Bob left. Do we have enough quorum here?
Yes. Because Don's not here, we have a
I think on the
five-member
Gallagher, we
board.
need to send it to Eric's office and down to make sure
Okay.
there's nothing in there. And let Bob's group look at it, make sure, for instance, the live and all that stuff.
Yeah, they need to.
All right, anyone else? We're at the end of the agenda. I
Motion to adjourn.
second, we're adjourned.
Can you?
I'll find out about that tourism stuff, because tonight we have a meeting, and I'll have to share it, so.